What's going on, YouTube? It's Jay, and we're going to be back here with another fantasy football video. We're going to be doing our rankings today. We're doing something where, as you see on the screen, I call it Papa J's Fantasy Chalkboard. This is just basically a little thing I like doing here with how it's, I don't know, just how it's laid out. It looks kind of fun, a little catchy, but basically what I'm going to be doing here is just kind of going over a bunch of things for fantasy on this kind of series, I guess we're going to do. But this one is going to be rankings. So we're going to be ranking the quarterbacks draft stock. So what this means is not how they're going to finish necessarily, but how you should be drafting your quarterback position, ranking the quarterbacks from 1 to 32, and then I have some extras at the end for those very, very deep leagues or guys you should just keep your eyes out for. So if you guys are new to the channel, please be sure to leave a like on the video, as it does help me out a bunch, and be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all the videos that I do. We do fantasy football, Madden videos, rebuilds, etc. There's so many things going on with the football world, so we're doing all those there. But without further ado, let's get right ahead and start with it. So the first three quarterbacks you're going to be seeing here on the screen are probably not too surprising. Maybe Dak Prescott at 3, but we're going to start with Lamar Jackson, right? We're going to go in order. There's 3 on each screen, so we'll be able to go through there. So Lamar Jackson, I mean, straight off the bat, the reason why I have him slightly over Mahomes and why I would take him slightly over Mahomes, this is all, it doesn't really matter if it's 6-point touchdowns for me. I play 6-point touchdowns, but overall, I kind of just look at it from a certain standard of how they're going to perform. Anyway, Lamar Jackson, the reason I have him over Mahomes, he has a lot more rushing ability, and yet they still let him throw the ball a lot comparatively to Mahomes. So Mahomes is going to get you those 300-yard, 400-yard games with 5 touchdowns in the air, but Lamar is going to get you those 200 to 300-yard games with 100 rushing yards. He's able to do a lot with his legs, even though they're going to try and tone that down with the selection of J.K. Dobbins and such. Hopefully the emergence of Hollywood Brown, as a lot of people are hoping. I still think Lamar Jackson's going to be able to use his legs. That's his best feature. It's the same thing with Cam Newton. If you force Cam Newton to throw the ball too much, you're going to start to see his flaws, and you're not going to be really getting a Cam Newton experience. You need to get Lamar Jackson on the ground, just running. I think he's going to still be able to do that. I think Harbaugh loves the plans they did with their Heisman package last year. I mean, endless ways to use Lamar Jackson. So I really like him just slightly over Mahomes. But Mahomes is a very close second. You shouldn't be mad with either of these two. You shouldn't be mad with any people in these first 3 slides. But when you look at what Mahomes can give you, it's the same thing. He's going to be able to get you probably about 20, 30 yards on the ground because he does like to scramble outside, improvise and get those first downs. He's very good at getting those extra yards on the sideline. He'll be running towards the sideline, and the defender will kind of shy off from the hit because he doesn't want to get the penalty, and Mahomes will use that to his advantage. He'll use that to his advantage and get a couple more yards, so it's always good for him on the ground. But when you look at what Mahomes is going to give you in the air, he has the best arm in football. He's just the best quarterback all around in football. But for Lamar Jackson's standpoint, with that rushing ability, I think he's going to be a little bit more used, a little bit higher on my draft board. But Patrick Mahomes is a very close second. These two guys are pretty much neck and neck. There's a steep drop-off after 1 and 2, though, and that is to number 3, and that is going to be Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is more or less grouped in with the guys on the next slide. But Dak Prescott, I think, is just in a perfect scenario if he is going to play this year. Right now, I think he's going to be the starter all 16 games. I really do believe that. But he still has a solid offensive line, even though Frederick's not there anymore. Their offensive line is very good. La'el Collins has become one of the best tackles in the league with Tyron Smith, who's one of the best tackles in the league already. They've had good production on the interior as well. So Zach Martin's still one of the best. There's a lot of things that they could do worse at the offensive line. The loss of Jason Witten isn't so bad because now Blake Jarwin's able to step out more, and Jarwin's very much more a receiving threat than Witten was at his age. You look at what they have in the receiving core, adding CeeDee Lamb, who I thought was the most talented receiver in the draft class, this last draft class, along with Michael Gallup, who took a really big step last year, and Amari Cooper. I mean, I really love this Dallas offense. I think it's got loads of potential to be one of the most high-flying offenses. I compare them kind of like a Tampa Bay Buccaneers of recent past, where they're going to be getting in shootouts of 40-point-plus games. They might not win all the games, but that's because of their defense they really didn't invest too much in, unfortunately, especially their secondary. But their offense is just so high-powered and high-flying that I just would love to see what Dak Prescott can do with that. Plus, he has the ability to run. A lot of these quarterbacks have the ability to run, and that's why they're so high up on everyone's list, because those are extra points. If you have a quarterback, if Dak Prescott and Phil Rivers both throw for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns, you're most likely still going to get more points from Dak Prescott because he'll add some points on the ground, whereas a Philip Rivers or Tom Brady and stuff, guys like that aren't going to do that for you. So I love these 3 guys. I think that these 3 guys should probably all be gone by round 3. But, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, some people might even take a chance on them in the first round. So definitely be on the lookout for these guys. So going into the next three here, I have Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, and Josh Allen. Now, Kyler Murray to start off, he has DeAndre Hopkins on an offense, which was already good for him last year. He really started to hit his strides towards the end of the year, especially if you're in the 6-point touchdown department. I think he finished the year as a top 10 quarterback, if I do believe so. He's really already done a lot, and all they did was add to that offense. They drafted Josh Jones, who's going to help them at the tackle position. They freed up David Johnson out of there, which is actually more of a hindrance than it was a plus for them. So now Kenyon Drake has the opportunity to completely blossom in that backfield. They add DeAndre Hopkins to a Larry Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk, healthy receiving core. They still have Isabella, Keyshawn Johnson. They have these weapons where I'm very excited to see what Kyler Murray can do, and he's one of the best scrambling quarterbacks in the NFL already. Him and Lamar Jackson, their agility, their versatility, their speed is just insanely predominant, And when you have one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in the NFL on your team in DeAndre Hopkins, there's no way that this guy's going to do worse than he did last year. So I really like Kyler Murray this year. You look at Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson doesn't matter what's around him. He's going to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback. This guy is always going to be one of the best fantasy quarterbacks to own because he rarely makes mistakes. He's always improvising. He's able to use his feet, but he makes players around him so much better. Now that he has DK Metcalf, who's already been a very, very good deep threat in his rookie year, that's going to be progressed more. They added Greg Olsen, who's going to help them in this with the tight end position. They added Carlos Hyde to the backfield just recently with Chris Carson. They have so many running backs that they can filter in where it's never going to be there's never going to be a time where like the backups in we can focus more on the pass game or something like that. No, there's always going to be a running back there who is slightly talented. Rashad Penny being your running back 3 is very good in my opinion. Even though he's probably not going to start off the season healthy, I really like what Russell Wilson is going to bring you as a fantasy quarterback. And then we have Josh Allen, who just has the biggest arm in the NFL, arguably. He is able to sling the ball so far and so hard. He has really progressed every year. He's made a huge jump every single year. His rookie year, he looked very good for a rookie. Then last year, he looked very good for a quarterback. Now this year, we'll see what he can do now. But Buffalo is in a prime spot to be a title contender. Their defense is absolutely insane with how good they are. You look at what they did in the draft by trading their draft pick for Stephon Diggs, and that is a huge help. Now you have Stephon Diggs with John Brown, with Cole Beasley. You're able to do a lot more because of that. And now that you have Stephon Diggs there, Josh Allen's going to be used way more. Diggs is going to be used way more. I'm very high on Diggs this year, higher than a lot of other people are, because in reality, Kirk Cousins didn't really trust him all the time. He wasn't able to throw those passes to Diggs, even though Diggs was open. He's very much conservative with the route running of Thielen, which now creates a guy where, hey, Josh Allen's going to throw to Diggs. There's no way they're not going to get Diggs involved. They paid the big price for him. Diggs is a top 10 receiver. You need to get him the ball. I really like what Josh Allen's going to bring you this year. Going on over to the next 3. I don't know why it was so hard. I got Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, and Daniel Jones here from 7, 8, and 9. Aaron Rodgers is a guy who's not going to make mistakes. So he has the ability to get maybe 10, 15, 20 yards on the ground every game. He's always going to get you a couple touchdowns. Devontae Adams should be healthy. Hopefully that turf toe is good. They still have Aaron Jones in the backfield, who is a great pass-catching back, as well as Jamal Williams, who's a great pass-catching back. I think having Sternberger being a younger guy there might be able to still recoup that role that Jimmy Graham was using. And then you look at where they are even behind Devontae Adams. They got Funchess. They have Lazard, who people are high on. They have Valdez-Scantling. There's definitely options there. Like I said, you're not going to – the reason why Rodgers is so high, and a lot of people don't always have him this high, is because – he is so safe. You're not going to lose points because of Rodgers. I think he had 4 interceptions last year. This is a guy who's not going to throw the ball if he knows that it's going to ruin his drive. He wants to keep the drive going. He's going to try and get points. So that's why Mason Crosby's always been a good kicker to own, and that's why Aaron Rodgers is always a good quarterback to own. These guys don't make mistakes. They're going to be getting down there. They want the points. They don't ever want to give the opponent an opportunity that they didn't deserve. So Aaron Rodgers, perfectly good quarterback. He's going to get as much touchdown as these guys. Doesn't have the amount of rushing ability that the next 2 guys have, but when you look at what Aaron Rodgers does have, he has that safety factor to where you are not going to lose points because of him. Then we go over to Deshaun Watson. We already know how good Deshaun Watson is. The reason I have him a little bit lower than maybe other people do, and it might seem kind of weird sandwiched in between these 2 guys, but he's lost a lot. We don't know what Will Fuller is going to be because he's always injured. I hope Will Fuller is the best that he can be healthy-wise, because I think that he is such a good receiver, and I can't wait to see it. Brandon Cooks has been dealing with health issues the past few years as well, so seeing him there, they have David Johnson, another guy dealing with health issues. They've really just, they've Randall Cobb, who had a resurgence in Dallas, but I don't think that he's going to be that much of a beast, And also, they don't really have a tight end position locked down. You don't know if it's going to be Akins. You don't know if it's going to be someone else. I mean, there's definitely they have Fells. There's definitely different things. And the offensive line, although it's taken a big step from the past, it's still not perfect. They still have flaws. Laremy Tunzel, Titus Howard, they're very good on the tackle position. They still could work on some things on that line, though. So when I look at where Houston is, I think that the DeAndre Hopkins trade is detrimental to Deshaun Watson's value, right? Because that's a beast that you're losing. And the other part of it is not only is it detrimental because you're losing DeAndre Hopkins, I think it's detrimental because you're getting David Johnson. If you're giving up a top 5, top 3, top 2 talent in DeAndre Hopkins and getting this running back for him, you need to use that running back. Bill O'Brien's going to want to use that running back as much as he can because he wants to say, hey, I did not lose this trade. Look at what David Johnson's doing for me. So they're going to force feed David Johnson. They're going to be trying to pass to David Johnson. And frankly, I just don't believe too much in David Johnson to where I think that it might hurt Deshaun Watson's value. We'll see what it does in the regular season. We'll see how Houston is in the regular season. It's a big different team, different look for the team than it's looked the past few years. They've looked very good the past few years, and now the roster looks a little bit ruddered, but we'll see how they can go. I still believe in the player, and that's why Deshaun Watson's still a top 10 for me. At number 9, though, Daniel Jones. This might seem a little higher than some other people do. Obviously, I have him higher than some guys that you'll see next. The reason why I have him so high is because when you look at the team that's healthy right now, I mean, this is a team that, one, is probably going to be playing from behind, right? As a Giants fan, I can tell you it doesn't seem like we're going to be blowing teams out of the water, right? So when you look at where the Giants are, they're probably going to be playing from behind, which means more quarterback time for Daniel Jones, and he has a lot of options, right? He has Sterling Shepard, Slayton, and Tate as the receiving core, which is very good to have for your receivers, right? That's a very good receiving core to have. He has 2 tight ends in Caden Smith, who had a very good season last year, filling in for Evan Ingram while he was injured, and Brett Ellison as well. Then you have Evan Ingram coming back from injury. The offensive line takes a big jump with Shane Lemieux, who's probably going to hop in as starting center, and with Andrew Thomas hopping in probably left or right tackle. But the main reason why I have him this high, and another reason why I have another guy higher that you'll see them most in a couple things down, is he has one of the best pass-catching backs in the league. Saquon Barkley is very, very good in the pass game. So when you have a guy who is so good in the pass game that when you're behind and you need to pass the ball, you're not going to force it. Okay, Saquon Barkley is one of the best running backs in the league. Let's force the ball down the throat. Even though we're behind, let's keep running. No, he's able to pass it. Those dink and dunks, those screen passes, those are all going to get you fantasy points. I don't care if the pass is 30 yards as long as it gets me 30 yards, And that's what Saquon can do. You can get a little screen pass to Saquon. He can take it to the house for 50 yards. There's a lot of versatility here. And when you look at what they have personnel-wise, a great head coach in Joe Judge as a motivator who's not even calling plays. Jason Garrett is going to be the play caller, and we've seen what Jason Garrett has been able to do for the value of Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. Well, now he has Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, who, comparatively at this moment in time, obviously is a little bit worse than one or the other. But Daniel Jones is at a very perfect spot right now going into this year with the personnel changes, with the head coaching changes, with all the coaching changes. I think that everything is set up for this guy to have a very successful fantasy year. That's why he sneaks into my top 10. So now looking at 10 through 12 here, Drew Brees, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan. You got to realize also, after the top few quarterbacks, it's really just your personal preference. A lot of these guys are going to finish very closely. One touchdown can just make the decision between one or the other. So take that into account. But these are my personal rankings and my reasoning why for it. You guys can always disagree and let me know in the comment section below where you guys agree with, disagree with, what's your rankings as well. Please let me know in the comment section below. And, of course, if you guys haven't already, please hit that like button and subscribe if you are new. But going on with number 10 through 12, we have Drew Brees at 10, Carson Wentz at 11, Matt Ryan through 12. I keep trying to say 13. I don't know why. At 12, Drew Brees, we know what he is. He is an absolute beast. He's going to miss a couple games. That's usually what happens, especially with Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill. But when you look at what he's got one of the best receivers in the game who is a PPR machine with his slant routes and his out routes in Michael Thomas. They added Emmanuel Sanders, who's a very good weapon at his age. This team, they maintain Jared Cook. They still have Kamara, who hopefully fully healthy. I think his team is in a good spot right now. I think that Drew Brees is always going to be a good quarterback because he's going to get you those points. Again, another guy who doesn't really make too many mistakes, which is very good to see. I like where Drew Brees is at. I like where the team is at. I think Drew Brees is a top 10 quarterback sneaking into that top 10. 11, Carson Wentz. I really like Carson Wentz as a player. I think his ability to make throws out of nothing. I've seen this guy getting hit, falling backwards, still make a perfect throw. This guy is one of the best arm talents we have in the league. Problem is that he is one of the worst medically talented players in the league. He has always had injuries. I mean, last year he finally had a full season, and then in the playoffs he got a concussion. It's something about this guy who just cannot stay away from injuries, which does stink. But I like Carson Wentz as a player. I think that his talent is there. I think they're building an offense specifically catered to them. Miles Sanders, pass catching back. You have 3 receivers who are speedy. I really like where everyone is at in that Philadelphia team. Offensive line is good. We'll see how that Jason Peters departure hurts them, because they obviously have Dillard to throw in there, but we'll see how that is. But you have Ertz and Goddard there. You have, like I said, the speedy receiving core with Deshaun Jackson, Marquise Goodwin, and obviously the rookie Jalen Reagor with Alshon Jeffrey hopefully healthy as well. This is a very good team for fantasy football, especially for Carson Wentz. You just take that risk with Carson Wentz where you have to take another quarterback sometime in the draft, because you don't know when Carson Wentz is going to get injured. It's most likely going to happen, though. Then we have Matt Ryan here. Todd Gurley, once again, one of the best running backs in the NFL. Hopefully he's fully healthy so we can finally see him again at full health. But other than that, Calvin Ridley's supposed to take a huge step this year, as everyone's seeing. Julio Jones is obviously Julio Jones. They had a good year from Russell Gage last year as their number 3. And then you look at the tight end position. They did lose Hooper, but they traded for Hayden Hurst, so they believe in Hayden Hurst. I think that Hayden Hurst can fill in that Hooper role pretty solidly. Hooper is an obviously amazing talent, but I think that they did such a good job of making tight ends get open on that offense, more or less than Hooper was a specifically great talent. So I think Hurst can fill into that role pretty well. I like Matt Ryan here at number 12. Next 3 guys here, I got Matt Stafford, Tom Brady, and Kirk Cousins now. Matt Stafford, if he's healthy, man, this guy is one of the best arm talents as well. He slings the ball. He is one of the strongest arms. It helped a lot when he had Megatron, but now he's got Golladay, he's got Marvin Jones. They have a very good backfield here with Swift and Johnson now. So I'm excited to see what you're going to get here from Detroit, and I like where they're at as a team. It's just really a matter of fact, is Stafford going to be healthy? But if he is healthy, if he's completely healthy and he plays this full season, you bet your ass he's going to be a top 15 quarterback. There's no way in hell I think he falls out of it. Pick 14, or not pick 14, but number 14, I have Tom Brady. He doesn't bring you that running ability, obviously. He never has, never will. But in this offense, it's going to be the reason why I have him so low compared to other people who might see, oh, wow, he's Godwin, he has Evans, he has Gronk, he has, there's a lot of great things about this team, but one, he's going into a brand new system. This is the first time he's ever had to learn a new system in the NFL. Ever, right? He's learned the Belichick way, and that's it. That is completely it. Him and McDaniels have been together for such a long time, too. So it's going to be weird for that, right? He's never worked with Evans and Godwin before. It's going to be different. His running game kind of doesn't change. It's kind of similar to what they had in the Patriots, but also he's with a coach who, if you're a betting man, you're not betting that the tight end position gets used from Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians has ruined some tight ends' careers. So getting one of the greatest of all time in Gronkowski is awesome, and that's his favorite target. But how much is he going to target him? How much is the play call going to benefit Gronk? It's all question marks, to where it might take them a couple weeks to figure it out. Weeks that you can't really just give up in fantasy, knowing that the playoffs start, sometimes with early as week 12, week 13, So you don't have those 4 weeks to wait to see if this team can mesh together. If you get Brady later, maybe if you took Carson Wentz and Brady, if you somehow got those two and were happy with your team, I think that's a very solid duo to go into, but it's a little bit of a risk for me. I'm not the highest on him. Kirk Cousins always gets fantasy points. I just think the team has dipped a lot, so that's why he's dipped a lot. Usually he'd be a top 10 for me because he is a stat pattern. He's going to get you 300 yards in the ground or in the air, probably 3 touchdowns and maybe an interception, but overall he's going to get you those points. Probably not get the Vikings a win, but get you those points. He's always going to get you those stats. He's always a stat king when it comes to the stats for a quarterback position. But with no Stephon Diggs there, Adam Thielen coming back from injury, Justin Jefferson, we'll see what he can be in the NFL. I like him. We'll see what he can be, though. After that, what do they have? Chad Beebe, E.D.B. Johnson. Like, it's so weird, this offense. Even Dalvin Cook is injury risks. I like Madison. I think their run game is just so strong now that they're going to be using that very heavy. I hope Irv Smith and Kyle Rudolph can be used in 2 tight end sets now, because I think Irv Smith is basically a receiver at the tight end position, kind of like an Evan Ingram type. So you're able to use him more this year than you did last year, in my opinion. I like where the team's at. I just don't think that it's as good as it was, and that's why Kirk Cousins is going to fall down, because I don't think he's going to be able to do what he was able to do. Going over to the next 3 here, as we see Ryan Tannehill, Teddy Bridgewater, and Big Ben. Now, Teddy Bridgewater is a guy who I was talking about earlier with the Daniel Jones thing. We'll get to that in a second. But Ryan Tannehill, I don't think it was a fluke. I'm a huge Ryan Tannehill fan. I have been for a few years, actually. I was really excited for him. Then he lost his job because of injury, and it was just a whole mess. I thought he was such a great quarterback. Once he came in, started lighting up, I was like, I knew it. I mean, he is a very good quarterback. I don't think it's a fluke. I think he deserved that money that he got. So when you look at where they're at, I think Corey Davis is going to have a good year. I think that A.J. Brown's going to have a great year. I think Jonnu Smith's going to have a great year as well. As well as you look at what they did in the running game. They lost Deion Lewis. They added a rookie. I don't want to get it wrong. I think it's Darrington Evans, but I might be wrong. So don't quote me on that. But you have Derrick Henry, who's the rushing champ, and people are more scared of Derrick Henry than they are of Corey Davis. I'll tell you that. So Ryan Tannehill is a guy who's going to blossom from that, because even though you're going to have to force feed, 25 carries to Derrick Henry, because that's how good Derrick Henry is. That's how he builds up his confidence, is the more carries you give him, the hungrier he gets, the better he gets. I think Tannehill is going to be a great option. So if you're one of those guys who likes waiting till the very, very end for a quarterback, I know I'm usually one of those guys. Tannehill's a great guy to snag up, but a better guy to snag up if you are – I think a better guy to snag up if you're like, okay, I'm not sure if Tannehill can do it, is going to be Teddy Bridgewater, and there's one reason why. These guys are very close in their rankings, I'll tell you that. Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey is such a beast of a running back, but half of his points come from receiving. He's one of the best receivers in the NFL as well. So when you look at what Teddy Bridgewater, all he has to do is say hike, throw a flat route, and McCaffrey can take it to the house. Kind of like I was saying with Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones, that's what Teddy Bridgewater is going to be able to do, right? I don't like their tight end position. I'm not a big believer in Ian Thomas. We'll see how the tight end position looks in the next year, but they got a left tackle in Russell Okung at the cost of Trey Turner, which is going to hurt the run game most likely, but I think it's going to help Teddy Bridgewater. And then you look at what they did. They added Robbie Anderson to Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore. They have a very good receiving core. They have the best receiving back probably in NFL history. I love what this offense is looking like. I think that Teddy Bridgewater is going to be able to settle in very nicely, and it might even mask, if he's not performing so well, he might be able to mask it because of McCaffrey, because he's able to just dunk it off and get some yards, get some fantasy points. So I think that Bridgewater is going to be a very safe and easy option for you to get a very good amount of points. Big Ben here at 18. I'm going to start flying through these next ones because obviously these are lower. These are guys who are probably going to be in free agents for most leagues, depending on how you run your formats. But Big Ben here, I have him so low because, one, we don't know what we're getting out of him after injury. It was an arm injury, so it's definitely it's shoulder. I think it was a shoulder injury, right? I've had a shoulder injury. They suck. I still can't throw a football like I used to. But Big Ben, you don't know what you're getting out of him as a talent. You don't know what you're getting out of the Steelers' offense as a talent. Is James Conner going to be there? Is Juju going to be a better receiver than he was last year? Because last year was horrible. Is Deontay Johnson going to be a beast? We need to know more than we have the information for at the moment. And then on top of all that, Big Ben doesn't care about interceptions. He doesn't care about stats. He wants to win the game. He's going to throw those passes. I mean, there's games where he has upwards of 5 interceptions. I can't have that as my fantasy quarterback because I can't go into a game thinking, oh, he has a good matchup, and then he throws 3 picks. That's too detrimental, especially if they're costing 2. That's a whole 6-point touchdown off your board if he throws 3 interceptions. So it's a big risk factor, especially where the Steelers are at. They're nearing this rebuild phase, and I'm not sure if I like it. The Steelers have made the playoffs for so long, and obviously they missed it last year. They're going to try and get back. They're going to try and ride Big Ben before they have to get to that rebuild phase. So we'll see where they're at. I just am not a big believer in Big Ben, but he's still a talented quarterback. That's why he cracks my top 20 at 18. At number 19, though, somebody who a lot of people have ranked very low, and I'm very confused on it, is Gardner Minshew. Now, as far as I know, he still has Leonard Fournette as his running back. He still has DJ Chark, who emerged as a beast of a wide receiver 1 last year, as well as D.D. Westbrook still there, Keelan Cole still there, Marquise Lee is still there. Or not Marquise Lee, apologies. Chris Conley is still there. They have these guys who are very good, and they added Tyler Eifert to a tight end spot who O'Shaughnessy and Oliver, they didn't look the best, but they're at least viable. The offensive line is decent. Gardner Minshew came in last year and did very well for the Jags. He was a good fantasy quarterback for a good amount of weeks if you had him, especially during his early season. He was very good. So now that he's able to sit with Marrone for a whole year, he's learned the system. He knows it. They add Laviska Shenault as well. I almost forgot about that. I mean, this is a team where I think that they're going to be a very good offensive fantasy team because, once again, they're going to be like the Giants, playing from behind a lot of the times. But Gardner Minshew is good enough to get the ball to his players, his weapons. DJ Chark is going to have a very good year, in my opinion. If you're a believer in DJ Chark, you have to believe in Gardner Minshew. And I think that's why Gardner Minshew cracks my top 20. Now, at the number 20 spot, the last one in the top 20, is Jared Goff. He's a safe guy. He's the perfect quarterback for the Rams system. That's why they paid him the big bucks. Not because he's worth the big bucks, but because he's the perfect quarterback for the McVay system. They lose Gurley. It's going to be a weird running back spot for them to be in. But overall, I like where they're going to be at. I think Robert Woods, and I think that Josh Reynolds, and I think that Cooper Kupp, those three are going to be able to still mesh well, even with the loss of Cooks. I like Cooper Kupp in the red zone. We know how the Rams offense goes. It's not going to change too much. They have three good tight ends who I believe in all of them, in Higbee, Everett, and Bryson Hopkins, the rookie. They have a decent offensive line. It definitely needed to improve. We'll see how it looks next year. That's really a big detrimental factor for Jared Goff, but I think he cracks the top 20. And then a guy at number 21 who has the upside of the world on his shoulders. People are really falling in love with Drew Lock this year, and for good reason. I mean, he looked very good last year, but when you look at what the Broncos did, they made their team so much better, especially on the defensive side, adding Bouye, adding Casey, getting Bradley Chubb back. I mean, this team looks very good. But then you look in the offensive side, they gave Drew Lock one of the best route runners we've seen in NFL history as a prospect, just as a prospect, not in NFL history, but as a prospect in Jerry Jeudy. Courtland Sutton has emerged as a wide receiver one. They added a great guy, a speedy guy in KJ Hamler in the second. I mean, they added Melvin Gordon on the offense as well as Lindsey, both guys who are very good in the pass game as well as the run game. They have Noah Fant, who is a very good tight end last year, probably the best rookie tight end off the top of my head. Do you look off how he's going to produce in the second year? I mean, I love this offense. It's a little bit of a risk because we don't know fully what Drew Lock looks like. It's kind of like that Garoppolo year. You know, Garoppolo looked very good in those last few games that he played for the Niners. We didn't know how he's going to bounce back the next year. I think it was the year he ended up tearing his ACL too, which is awkward, or whatever the injury was. But it's going to be a risk taking him because we don't know exactly how he's going to look completely. But we like Drew Lock. I think that Drew Lock is going to be a solid quarterback. As of right now, I'd have him at 21 though. The next three off the board here for my rankings are going to be at 22, Baker Mayfield. Now, Baker Mayfield is another guy kind of like Jared Goff and Drew Lock. I don't know what I'm getting out of them, so I'm going to stay away from them. You don't want to take risks in your draft. You're okay with taking risks in the season with maybe a free agency signing or something. Baker Mayfield, if I draft him as my main quarterback, I'm going to be worried. I'm going to talk myself out of starting him most weeks because I'm very terrified on his season last year. He had all the weapons. He had everything around him, but the coaching was bad. The team was bad. I don't know. We don't know how Conklin's going to be on the left side or Jedrick Wills is going to be on the left side. You know, neither of them have played left tackle since college. Yeah, Wills never played left tackle, so one of them's going to have to move. We don't know if Conklin's going to be healthy. He's rarely healthy. That's why the Titans didn't want to give him his fifth-year option, as well as obviously the big payday. You look at what they have on the offense, though. You have Landry. You have Odell. I mean, besides that, it is kind of a steep fall-off at the receiver point, but Chubb and Hunt are very good. I like them at the running back spot. I think it's going to be more of a run-heavy offense. I think that Stefanski is a good coach for Baker, but it's going to take a while for them to mesh together, and once again, time I don't have. I'm going to stay away from Baker Mayfield. If I'm wrong on this one, I'll take it, but as of right now, Baker needs to prove he's a starting quarterback for the Browns for the significant future, and I just don't know if he's going to be that. I don't know if he's going to produce like that. I'm a little bit worried about Baker Mayfield's play. I'm not so much worried about Jarvis Landry and Odell's play. I think they'll be viable fantasy options, but Baker scares me enough to say I don't want him to be my quarterback. Number 23, Derek Carr. They're in Vegas. John Gruden wants Derek Carr to be the quarterback. He is shown with their actions, Mayock as well, that they want Carr to blossom in this system. They add a weapon in Henry Ruggs. They still have Tyrell Williams. They signed Aguilar. They already have Hunter Renfrow. They add a guy in Lynn Bowden who can kind of play everything on that team. You know, they maintain Jalen Richard. They get back Josh Jacobs, who was a little bit injured at the end of the year last year. Darren Waller's emerged as a top 5 tight end. Offensive line is good. Richie Incognito came back for a year. I mean, this is a very solid team going to a new place where they're going to want to hit very hard right away. They're going to want to get, hey, I know we moved to Vegas, but we're here and we're ready. I think that's what they want to do. I'm excited to see what Derek Carr does. And then, obviously, at 24, the rookie, number 1 overall pick, Joe Burrow, in a good situation, but once again, a lot more questions than I have answers for, and rookies are a little bit worrisome for me. So he's not as low as some other guys, but I have him, 24. It's a solid spot. AJ Green, is he going to be AJ Green? How is Tyler Boyd going to adjust back to that number 2 role when he's been the number 1 for a while? How is John Ross and Auden Tate going to be used? What's going to happen with the tight end position? Is it going to be Uzma? Is it going to be Sample? We don't know. How's the offensive line going to pan out? It's been a rough patch for them. I think their defense is very much improved as the Bengals. But and also, is Mixon even going to be there? He said he was going to hold out if he doesn't get a contract. We don't know what's going to happen there. So a lot of questions, more questions than I have answers to. I'm worried from that. I'm going to stay away from that. Then we go over to 25, Phillip Rivers, another guy who I think should have retired. Kind of like Big Ben, he's one of those guys who doesn't really care about the stats. He just wants to get the win, as we've seen with his trash talking. But he throws a lot of passes that are very bad, that are poor decisions. He gets picked off a lot, and I just don't want to take those risks. Going into a new system, once again, another guy for the first time going into a new system, that's not in San Diego or LA. This is very different for him. He's going to be playing indoors the whole time. It's also different for him. It's a lot of different things. T.Y. Hilton, hopefully he's healthy. We don't know what he's going to get out of that. But other than that, he's got two young guys in Paris Campbell and Michael Pittman, so we're going to see how they do. They lose Eric Ebron, but they do get Trey Burton. I don't think it's a significant trade-off. I think that you kind of lost out on that one, but obviously Jack Doyle's still there. Marlon Mack and Taylor as the running backs. I think it's going to be a run-heavy offense, and I think that Phillips, I don't know, man. I just don't believe in what Phillips is going to be able to do this year. I think the Colts are going to be a little overrated because people like Phillip Rivers in the media. I don't know what it is. People very much believe in Phillip Rivers in the media as well as Big Ben. But I think at this point in their careers, I just don't see them as being as good as they were. Big Ben is obviously a lot better than what Phillip Rivers is, though. Jimmy G at 26. This offense has taken a hit. This team has taken a hit since their Super Bowl last year. They lose Emmanuel Sanders. They end up getting Brandon Ayuk out of Arizona State, who I really am high on. I like Ayuk a lot as a prospect, but I just don't know how long it's going to take for Ayuk to be a number two. You hope maybe Dante Pettis can find his groove. Obviously, Deebo Samuel is going to be a beast, but I think, once again, another team where I think it's going to be very run-heavy. So when you look at Raheem Mostert, how good he's been, you still have Tevin Coleman. Jerick McKinnon's going to have some sort of role in that offense. Offensive line is looking good. Obviously, they have Kittle, who's an absolute beast, but overall, Garoppolo's never done anything too special. He's just always been a good quarterback. So if he's being good and his offense is getting worse, I'm not too high on him. At 27, though, we do have Tyrod Taylor. Now, that might seem like a surprise, but Tyrod is one of the most conservative quarterbacks you can get, especially for those first few weeks. If you're getting a guy like Tyrod Taylor who is going to get you yards on the ground, obviously, he's probably going to get you at least 30 to 40 to 50 on the ground. He's going to add maybe 250 yards in the pass game as well as a couple touchdowns. Really not any interceptions. He's not a guy who throws passes that shouldn't be thrown. He doesn't really throw the deep ball too much. He's going to be throwing more conservative, intermediate routes, which is perfect for Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, who are very good route runners, can pretty much fight anybody for the ball. I like where they're at. Hunter Henry's there, obviously, as well. Austin Eckler, great pass-catching back. I think Tyrod Taylor is going to be very good for this team as long as he is the starter before Justin Herbert obviously takes the reins. Then we go to 28 through 30. I have 28, Sam Darnold. Again, another guy who I think is going to be a run-heavy offense. They have Frank Gore. They have Le'Veon Bell. It's not going to be too much. They have young guys. They have Perriman, who we got to see how he's going to be in a full role because he looked like he had a career revival with Tampa Bay, the former first-rounder. Denzel Mims, they got late in the second, which was a huge value pick, but how is he going to be? They lose Robbie Anderson, so now Crowder has this bigger role, in my opinion. Tight end position, they have a bunch of guys there. I love Chris Herndon, but they also paid I totally forgot his name. But the guy that was there last year, they paid him or they extended him after he had a couple games at tight end position. The offensive line's different. It's got to be hopefully better, but it's still weird. I would stay away from Sam Darnold until he can prove something to me. Ryan Fitzpatrick, we know he's going to give you. He's going to give you 400 yards a game because he's a beast. But we don't know how long he's going to be there. So I think he's a great quarterback to maybe flex on those deeper leagues at the beginning and let it fizzle out. But I like where Fitzpatrick's at. Jarrett Stidham at number 30. If he's everything that the Patriots are saying he is and the fans are saying he is, then hey, why not put him in the top 32? Obviously, I put him at 30 because I'm not sure what you're getting out of him. The offense is a lot worse. There's not really a tight end. They have Asiasi. They have Keen. We don't know what they're going to get. Run game's still a little murky. Receiving core, you don't really know anything about it. It's just going to be Edelman and Sanu, at least we know. Harry should step into that role at number 3 as well. But overall, the offensive line's great, and that's why Stidham's going to be decent. But you got to really see what the kid has before you can really bet on him in a draft setting. So I wouldn't draft him, but I think that he's a guy who I'd keep my fab dollars eyes on after week 1 to see what he does. Now at 31, I have Mitch Trubisky. I think that Mitch Trubisky is going to play more games than Nick Foles is. I think that the Nick Foles signing is great because he's a great backup. If they ever want to bench him or they ever want to do something else, they can. But Mitch Trubisky, the franchise spent the pick on him. They spent the capital on him. They're going to play him. That's simple as that. I think that a lot of the problem is on Matt Nagy. I think Matt Nagy is pretty much on the hot seat. He's not once his defense started underperforming, he started majorly underperforming. Tariq Cohen's been a non-factor this past few years. You look at Montgomery, everyone thought he was going to be very good. He just turned out to be pretty much below average, in my opinion. Allen Robinson's done well from target standpoint. He gets targeted so much. But from an actual perspective, when you watch the games, Allen Robinson's not killing anybody out there. He's doing very well, but other than that, you want Anthony Miller to take that second step. Taylor Gabriel had a horrible career with them. Obviously, he's a free agent now. It's like, I think that the Bears' offense was more of the problem. I mean, they paid Trey Burton, and now Trey Burton's gone. So now they have Jimmy Graham, they have Cole Kmet. I think that this Bears' offense is better than it was last year, ironically, but they've done so bad. I think Matt Nagy needs to really look at himself and say, is it my play calling or is it the players underperforming? I think it's more the play calling. I think that he needs to adjust to what the team looks like right now more than he needs to say, hey, you do what I have on here because I know my stuff works. I think he needs to look at it. I don't think he's a selfish guy. I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't think he's a bad coach. But he's got to adjust to what he has. And then at number 32, I have Cam Newton. We don't know where he's signing, but Cam Newton is going to be a quarterback hopefully this year for somebody starting. So if you get Cam Newton in a very, very deep league, if you get Cam Newton as your third quarterback or second quarterback, I know some people have two quarterback leagues, like my friend Griffin that you've seen on the channel in our mock draft with a 3-person mock draft. In a two-quarterback league, if you get two quarterbacks and a Cam Newton, that's perfect because Cam Newton, if somebody gets injured, he's going to take that starting job. So we'll see where that is. So now here for the last of the video, as we're pretty much going to wrap it up here. I have some guys here which you definitely want to look at going in order from top left to bottom right. These are guys who are going to have some sort of role this year. It's just not going to be great, but these are guys you should look at for free agency. Definitely keep an eye on them, put them on your watch list or something, because if one of their guys goes out or if they just get the shot, they're able to do a lot. So Jameis Winston, obviously with Drew Brees, usually missing time, he's going to get a couple games, and also he's there to learn. He's there to sit behind him. He's a great quarterback. It's just the fact that we don't have him as a starter anymore. You're not going to get those points out of him. He was a very good fantasy quarterback last year. Even though the interceptions were there, he was throwing, as many touchdowns. So, that's how that is. When you look at Justin Herbert, how long until he gets a starting job? I don't know. I wouldn't draft him, but he's definitely going to get a job at some point. Kyle Allen, I think he's going to be the starter in Washington day one. He's with Ron Rivera, who believed in him last year after Cam Newton. He did pretty well for Carolina for a little bit. Then he started to fizzle out once Ron Rivera was gone. So, Ron Rivera comes back with him. He comes back with Ron Rivera. I think that, especially with how we don't know how training camp and OTAs and preseason is going to work, worst comes to worst, if the season starts and they didn't really have much time to prep, why would Ron Rivera trust a guy he's barely seen anything in person of over a guy who he's actually personally worked with in Kyle Allen? So I think Kyle Allen is probably going to be the starter day one. I just hate the Washington offense. I don't, McLaurin, I'm a huge fan of. I love McLaurin, but other than that, Kelvin Harmon, Jeremy Sprinkle, there's nobody that I really like on that offense, even the 40 running backs they have. So we don't know what that offense is, but that is the quarterback, I think. Tua, once again, another guy who, if he's healthy, he'll probably play. It just depends on how long they want to keep Fitzpatrick in, how long they want to keep him healthy on the sideline, preparing, making sure he's good. Nick Foles, once again, fighting with that spot with Trubisky. He's probably going to get a couple games, probably I'd say 6 games out of the other, out of the 16, he'll probably get that. It's going to be weird. It's definitely going to be weird, but you could look at Nick Foles, especially if you're tied to Trubisky, getting Nick Foles. Either way you'll get your Bears quarterback, which is weird, but whatever. Dwayne Haskins will probably be the backup to Kyle Allen, but I think that overall he was a first overall pick. They'll want to, especially the ownership will want to play him, so he'll get his time. Jalen Hurts, they drafted him not only to be the backup, but probably to be a weapon. He can play like a Taysom Hill type if need be, if they ask him to. I think that he'll be able to now that he's in the NFL. But overall, Wentz gets hurt often. You can believe that Hurts is going to get some time this year because there's probably going to be at least one game Wentz miss if the odds are in the favor of what has happened in the past. Mariota backs up for Derek Carr. If Derek Carr is starting to underperform, I think that the Raiders fans and the Raiders front office is kind of at wit's end. He's on the hot seat. If he's underperforming, they have a guy in Mariota who was a former starter, former number 2 overall pick. They'll be able to play him. Andy Dalton behind Dak Prescott. If Dak Prescott sits out, if Dak Prescott gets injured, unfortunately, for whatever reason, Andy Dalton's in the perfect situation. No matter what quarterback plays in Dallas, they'll be able to perform well right now. And then last but not least, I have Jordan Love, who, once again, Aaron Rodgers has missed some time in the past few years. So if it were to happen, which would be unfortunate because I love watching Aaron Rodgers play, they traded up for him. They believe in this guy. They might even be trying to get Aaron Rodgers out of here. So Jordan Love's in a perfect situation. But that is going to be it for the video. I know this one took a little bit longer. So if you guys are watching this, I know I love watching videos like this on YouTube when I'm playing my video games or whatever, when I'm playing Madden. So let me know what you guys are doing while listening to this video, or if you're just paying attention to this. I definitely would appreciate all of it. But let me know what you think about it in the comment section below, how you think of my rankings. What are your rankings as well? Once again, this is draft rankings. This is based on how you are going to draft them. If you're going for, okay, it's round 8, I'm in a quarterback. Let me look at my list. Okay, this guy's gone, this guy's gone, this guy's gone, da, 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 da. Oh, okay, this is the guy here. It looks like I'm taking Carson Wentz because he's my 11th guy on the board. That's what it is. So that's going to be it for me. If you did enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like. If you didn't, just refresh the page, check it out again. Let me know what you think a second time. Without further ado, that's going to be for me. I'll see you guys in the next one.